Just grooving, man. Just grooving to the start of a new day. Welcome, everybody, to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Besbris. This show is brought to you by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. And today I am joined by Dan. I do Dan's, man. That's what I do. We got, trying to remember all the Dan's, but this one at least brings with him the Thunder. The Thunder. The Thunder. He is Thunder Dan Palio at Thunder Dan DFS on the socials. Grand Poobah of all things fantasy over a Rotoballer. And we're talking mocks today. It's Mock Talk Friday here on Old Man Squad. Thunder Dan, good morning to you. How are things in that New York apartment that you suddenly find yourself in?
Good. I got this one neighbor that always pops in and it's really annoying. And besides that,
It's a joke for those that are watching. Only a joke for those that are watching but not listening. Thunder Dan has made his background the Jerry Seinfeld's apartment.
And for all of our younger listeners, like Seinfeld was a really funny show on TV for a long time.
That's right.
At least we thought it was.
We did. I actually think it a lot. Maybe not like the first couple of seasons when they had the really long shots. It's hard for people to hold attention for that long nowadays. But once they started to actually cut between different cameras, I think the young folks would enjoy a little Seinfeld. You had the fourth pick in the mock that we're going over. I just threw the picks up on the screen, and I'll lightning round all 10 of your guys. This show, as folks that watch our mock reviews episodes know by now. By the way, if you're watching, you're enjoying, or you're gonna enjoy whatever, please hit that like and subscribe button. That's a big deal for us here at Old Man Squad. Thank you for that. I told you where you can find Thunder Dan DFS. I'm at Dan Besbris on social media. 10 picks for Thunder Dan. He had the fourth pick in a 14-teamer, so don't get too caught up in the round that these guys went in. It's more about the number. I can't do that math fast enough. I do know that his fourth pick, because I can count to 4, was Luka Doncic. Scottie Barnes was pick 25. Desmond Bane, who actually you and I talked about on, I think he was one of your guys, right?
Yeah.
So that would be pick 32. Let's see, 56 minus 4 is 52. No, that's not right. 53. Kristaps Porzingis at 53. Jarrett Allen, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks later at 60. I could have done that math. Jarrett Allen at 60. I like that value, by the way. Jarrett Allen at 60.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Josh Hart, 81. Am I screwing that up?
Well, if Allen was
5 times 14, 70 plus 11, 81. Okay, I got that one. Christian Braun at 88. Bobby Portis at, and this is going to start to test me a little bit. So 7 times 14 is 98 plus 11 is 109. Bobby Portis at 109. D'Angelo Russell at 116. And then PJ Washington, pretty close to the end of this thing, is like 130 something. That is the not that lightning round while Dan was doing math live on air. Let's start at the top. Jokic, Wemby, Shea were off the board. Did you have any designs of going any direction besides Luka at 4?
No, I was basically waiting to see if, like, for some reason Shea fell there, which would have been super cool. But hey, man, Luka, I'll take Luka at 4 all day. I think, you're not going to see the top 4 spots very, very often in this format from those 4 guys. And I have Luka well ahead of the rest of that middle first round guys. And, I like some Cade and I like Edwards. I used to try the Giannis punt free throw build, and I'm not totally against it, but I'm not going to take him there. I have him ranked like the end of the first round and I just would rather have someone who loves the counting stats take him ahead of me and deal with the punt. I'm trying not to force myself into punt builds. I think we talked about that last show a little bit. Like, I'd rather not go with a guy that auto forces you into a punt build round 1 or round 2.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, if at all possible. And I honestly, for me, one of the big fun things about these mock review episodes is digging in on strategy a little bit. I'm with you on that, but I don't know that. Like, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to this. I just think that it's an easier way to play fantasy basketball. And so, like, yeah, you could do it a slightly harder way, and it could work really well. Like, if you pull off the Giannis punt, you'll be a wrecking machine. But if you have an opportunity to go Doncic instead, where you're not jammed into a particular build, you just have a bigger board to work with from that point forward. That's it. That's the big thing there. So I'm with you on that one. That said, if I had the 5th pick here, I probably am going Giannis, because once you get past Luka, if you in head-to-head in particular, maybe less so, not Roto. I'm not going Giannis at 5.
Yeah, no, right.
But in head-to-head, once you get past Luka, you kind of need to take someone that has a wart on their fantasy game and then just dump that category if you're going to keep up with those first 4 guys, because otherwise you'll just get left in their dust. So I'm with you. Luka at 4 makes a lot of sense. You were telling me a little bit about your thought process on Scottie Barnes before I hit the go button on this podcast. I mean, the thing is, the guys that are going in this range, this was pick 25, that are still on the board here is LeBron, and now we know he's got the sciatica. So like you were lamenting it before I hit the record button, but I don't like, who else would you have even gone here in this particular draft? Because the guys that went after you were JJJ, Şengün, LeBron, Jamal Murray, LaMelo Ball, Derek White, Desmond Bane. These are guys that are usually going like a good 5 to 10 picks later, other than Braun.
So the only guy I might switch out, and maybe it's too much hype, would be Şengün, because I think he's set for a big year. And I honestly, I may write an article about this, but I like to try to build a team that can win assists without a pass first point guard. You know what I'm saying? Like if you start, like I started Doncic and Barnes, these are both guys who are high assist guys. And obviously Şengün, we're expecting, has been high assist guy, but we're expecting to maybe even take another step up with no Freddie. Like they're really going to run the offense through him. That's the big appeal, is can he be a Sabonis type producer, you know? And so if you can stack, some heavy PRA guys early, like I was trying to do with Doncic and Barnes, and even Bane, we'll probably skip over Bane, but Bane I mentioned on the last show was like 5-6 assists last. You don't have to, in order to win assists, you don't have to have a 10 assist player, and there simply aren't that many of them. You can just stack up a lot of 5 to 7 assist guys and be competitive, especially if assists are going to be kind of scarce this year with no Halliburton, no Tatum, right? No Kyrie. Like that, I think people are just going to punt assists unnecessarily, right? No Dame. And you don't have to do that. I think you can be competitive in assists without having and obviously Luka is a pretty high assist guy. I'm not saying he's not, but I also don't put him as a traditional point guard because he's a scorer, because he rebounds. He's not like a traditional pass first guy.
Right. He doesn't have your normal guard build type of stats where he's not
right.
He other than like threes and assists, but he's not a high free throw percent guy. He's not a poor field goal percent guy. There's sort of like a little bit of a flip flop there. He's a very good rebounder, all that good stuff. I mean, like, I'm not super high on Scottie Barnes either, but in this, what's left for you here in this expert draft was kind of slim pickings. We don't have to necessarily jump over Desmond Bane. You mentioned on the last show we did that he is one of your guys. I think you referred to him, and you can fix my verbiage on this if I'm screwing it up, as an extraordinarily safe play in this range with a little bit of upside. Was that the general feel there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the way I look at it is, he, to me, fits perfectly with what I want to do. I value efficiency a lot. We talked about that. And that's why I'm trying to get guard stats without the negative that comes with guards. Like, I'm trying to pick up the threes and the steals and the assists that you traditionally get from a Trae Young without Trae Young's field goal percentage, right? I'm trying to do that. So that's why I value him probably more than the field. I put out my rankings this week and I had some comments right away, like, that's pretty high on Desmond Bane. I'm like, that's fine. You can think that, but I think when you value the things that I do in these kind of players, that elevates him above some other guys in that range.
Kristaps Porzingis is a little bit of a controversial play here because of the health stuff. What's the thought process there? Because if this was like a Games Cap Roto League, I'd be like, yeah, Kristaps Porzingis right here. This makes a lot of sense. What's the thought process for head to head?
I'm just gonna say a lot of prayers for the teams that have him on, and
fair. I like it.
Here's the thing, like, I know there's certain guys that people just wear out on. They're like, oh, it's Kristaps, he's gonna play 40 games, he's gonna be hurt. Okay, that's fine. He might, but he's still 29 years old. It's not like he's like ancient. He is in a new team. They have plenty of depth to where they can afford to play him 28 minutes a night because they have, Onyeka Okongwu behind him, and they have Jalen Johnson. They don't need to roll him out there. They can give him some rest nights. I just want like 60 games out of him because, like, let's face it, he's a top 30 guy per game when he plays. You don't get
Yeah,
there's
or
just not
better.
a guy that or better. There's just not a guy that gives you that skill set, threes, blocks, rebounds, points, percentages, all the things that he does. So it's really just at that range. Now, we talked about this earlier. The first 3 picks for me are like building a foundation, pretty safe. Now you're into the point where, you can go take some swings, take some shots on some guys. And I don't see a guy in that range that has higher upside than Porzingis if we're looking at the 3 or 4 guys ahead of him or behind him.
Yeah, it's funny too because the more I think about it, the more we can sort of note, and like Kawhi went earlier in this particular draft, but in general, this area-ish, like mid 40s to early 50s, that's where the super battered, massive per game upside guys always end up falling. You got
Yeah.
Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, and Kristaps Porzingis. They all end up clustered in this one area, and it feels like
Yeah.
I don't know that there's like a really obvious explanation as to why, other than human nature suggests most people want to take 4 guys at the start of their draft that are
Yeah.
upright, and then someone in the draft is probably going to be like, all right, whatever, I'll do this. So instead of ending up at 50, they end up just a few picks in front of it most of the time, and that's
Yeah.
how you end up with these guys right in that general area.
Yeah.
My very blind dog keeps visiting in mid-show, so there's a chance we might get a blind dog on air voyage today. And now she's talking to me to try to get on the bed. Tell me a little bit about Jarrett Allen, who you got at 60, while I disappear to go lift my blind dog onto a bed.
Go do what you got to do, man. Listen, it's all good. Jarrett Allen
Keep going.
is I call him my safety blanket in the mid rounds. He first of all, I'm a Cavs fan. I don't know if people realize that he shot 70% from the floor last year. Now I know it's not on a huge volume, but that's a real boon to your field goal percentage. 70% from the floor. He's so efficient. I know he only played 28 minutes, and that's kind of a bummer. With the Cavs starters didn't play big minutes last year, but I don't know, man. I love him. Probably have him ranked too high in my rankings, but if I get to the fifth or sixth round and he's sitting there, it's really hard not to take him because he fits everything I want to do in terms of like building a big man team, efficiency, field goal percentage. Like I said, super safe. I don't think there's a ton of upside there, but again, it's a really safe floor.
Yeah, so his per game rank last year was 52-ish, not glimmering upside. But I will add this one remark. I know that it gets looked down upon at times, but Jarrett Allen's totals rank last year was 14. Dude played all 82
games. Yeah, I did. I forgot to mention that. Yep, 82 games, 70% from the floor. Just never gonna hurt you. Super solid. There's some trade chatter with him, and like I don't think it's gonna happen, but like he's the one guy they have dangled or have been, rumored to be like dangling if they wanted to acquire a star wing player or something. I don't know if that's gonna materialize, but that certainly would be interesting if he went to another team and all of a sudden was not the 4th or 5th option and got more looks and played more minutes. That would be really interesting for his fantasy value for sure.
Who knows? Your next
Yeah.
pick and I think I decided this was number 81, if I'm remembering the math right, is Josh Hart, who's been getting pooped on a little bit during this run up to the
Yeah.
season. And I'm guilty of it. I've pooped on him a tad myself.
I saw that.
But so the other side of that is I'm pooping on him when he was going at like 45. It's a little bit of a different story if he's going at 81. That is a huge difference between the sort of I don't know what his ADP is today. I'll look it up while we're talking.
Split the difference, right?
Yeah,
Don't we agree it should be somewhere in between that? Like where I got him felt like, and here's what happens in expert drafts. We always outsmart ourselves, and sometimes I'm in an expert draft and I'm like, everybody's taking their guys and their little pet projects and the guys that they love. They're reaching for, and I'm like, sometimes really good players just fall that are just boring. Like Jarrett Allen's boring, and Josh Hart is boring. But what are you getting from Josh Hart? I'm getting 8 rebounds from a guard or a wing and another 5 or 6 assists. We talked about stacking assists without point guards. That's what you do. I mean, he's a good field goal percentage. He fits the mold of what I'm trying to do with those players. And so I thought he just fit the build really well, and he was like the best value there.
Yeah, I'll happily take him at 81. I'm not taking him in the 4th round, but if
No,
and I know that like this is the 6th round in a 14 teamer, but 81 is typically a 7th round pick. If you're getting Josh Hart at the end of the 7th round, that's a good time to take a shot there, because there is still a chance that he doesn't see a massive decrease, and then you've got colossal upside because he was a 3rd rounder last year, early 3rd,
right,
and
right.
again, by totals, not to say that we can expect him to stay healthy all year, but by totals, he was actually a 1st rounder last year. So let's not crap
He's
on him
been
too
pretty
hard.
durable. Yeah, he's been pretty durable. He's
Since
like a
he went
glue
to New York,
guy.
interestingly.
Yeah, right. In New York, he's been that guy. He's been their glue guy. So, uh, all right, who's next? I think it's
Christian
here's
Braun. We love
so look,
ourselves some Christian Braun, the two of us.
look who went just in front of him though.
Yeah, that's your dude, Bacelis. So you were like, I didn't get my
Uh
guy. I'll go with this other one that I also like a lot. I know
so
you wanted
basically,
Bacelis there.
yeah, I want to be zealous, but that's fine. Basically, Brown is like we talked about it before. Super safe. The field goal percentage is fantastic. I think he went 8 for 8 in his first preseason game, hit all 3
Picking up where he
threes,
left
and
off.
I was like, he'll never miss another shot. But I mean, that's the Jokic effect. That's what we talked about with Cam Johnson a little bit the other day. Like, just those guys that play around Jokic, like they get such a boost in efficiency. You get open looks all the time, and I think, it's probably not totally sustainable what he did last year, but that's just the kind of player he is. He's going to get layups, he's going to open threes, and he's going to just plug in nicely and help your percentages without hurting you anywhere.
And if you're wondering, by the way, what to do about Denver, and you're into, say, I don't know, season win totals with our friends over at FanDuel or FanDuel Sports, that number is 54.5. That's a good size number, but man, the Nuggets are going to be good this year. So I might even consider the over for them to have one of the big time regular seasons. I guess we'll see. It'll come down to how healthy Nikola Jokic is, but usually he's pretty healthy. Again, that number over at FanDuel, our partners here on Old Man Squad at FanDuel.
Here's the other thing. Jamal Murray is the key to that, his health, because
Yeah.
when Jamal Murray's healthy and he and Jokic are firing together and all those other guys around them, they're just awesome, man.
They're monsters.
They're monsters. We know it. And Jamal Murray's going early this year, but I think it's really well warranted. He's another guard I like.
They got better too. That's one of the teams where you can point and be like, that team got better. They got a better backup center. They've got a better backup. We want to call it a point guard,
Bruce Brown.
like Bruce Brown instead of Russell Westbrook. They exchanged the player in the locker room they didn't like for one that they probably do in Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. And Cam, not as good of a rebounder as MPJ. They're going to lose something on the glass there, but I think from a cohesion standpoint, that team is.
And they've maximized Aaron Gordon. They took Aaron Gordon, a freaking superstar, and made him into a really good role player two-way role player who can do a little bit of everything. I know he's not flashy for fantasy, but man, in real life, like Aaron Gordon is such a valuable piece on that team.
He was perfect for them. Let's talk about your I don't care about the round. This is number, what did I say? 109? I think 109. Bobby Portis. How do you feel about Bobby? Because I don't want to give away my position on this show. And until I hear where you're
like Bobby. I've always liked Bobby. I think the potential is there. We know that Milwaukee, I mean, if you just look at like their lineups they're rolling out there, like it's just what after Giannis and Miles Turner, like what do you have? I mean, you got a bunch of guards and wings that aren't proven, and then in terms of
Al Kuzma.
I hate him, and what a terrible trade that was. But besides the point, Bobby Portis comes in and not makes shots, grabs boards per minute. He's always really efficient and really good. I think that he'll probably play a lot. I don't know that he'll play more than a minute or 2 or 3 minutes more than usual, but with the minutes that he's on the floor, he's going to get shots up, and he's always been a really good rebounder per minute too. So, I mean, people are all over Miles Turner, and I get it. I like Miles Turner, but not really where he's being drafted, and I worry about his health a little bit. Bobby Portis down here to me is just a good value. You're just going to pick points, rebounds, threes, especially if you're building like a small ball team. Like if I know some of our listeners like to go guard early, and if you need a big man that fits the guard stats, so you add the threes, right? And I just think he's a nice value there.
How are you feeling about your team overall at this point? Is it coming together the way you were hoping?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's tough because you again, once you get down to these last rounds, it's like, are you and when you're doing a mock too, it's like I'm doing a mock draft. I know that this isn't a real team versus and I know I'm gonna have to talk
Yeah.
about these picks on the show. I think like even in your head, you're thinking that a little bit when you instead of like this would be the best fit for my team. So yeah, I
Yeah, you're
mean, I
thinking,
probably
who would be fun to talk about with Dan? That's that's right.
honestly, yeah. And then I guess I went guard next anyway. So we could talk about D'Lo a little bit.
Yeah,
Or
talk
did
about
we already?
D'Lo a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did talk about him just briefly on the first show. I know there's some people that don't like him, and I know there's that ugly stink of his 39% shooting last year. I just want to throw that Brooklyn half a year out the window. I don't think we can read into that much. Brooklyn has that effect on guys, and I think that he's probably just going to be just fine for. You said, if you want a half season guy, you know that he's going to be 14-7 or so for the first half of the year, maybe a little more even. Kyrie might not be back till February. We don't know. Um, they're going to need him to play minutes and to get into be a creator, be a assist guy. They don't have a whole lot of other cards. Just seems like I'm happy to take him there. And if he does fall apart when Kyrie comes back and is just a bench guy, then you just cut him and you move on. It's not like anything majorly lost in the 10th round or 9th round or whatever we are.
Yeah, now your last pick is we're nearing 140 here. You went PJ Washington. Do you have high hopes for PJ, or is this like the board is getting dry? What's the story there?
I love PJ Washington. I know there's a crowded rotation there, and there isn't like a spot for him right now, but I don't care. Like I first of all, Derek Lively gets hurt, Daniel Gafford gets hurt. We know Anthony Davis gets hurt. All those guys have had injury histories, and PJ Washington's coming off a career year. He's 1 3, 1 steal, 1 block guy with minutes. At that range, man, there's just not a lot of guys. If you look in that round, like Kyle Kuzma, maybe Jovic, no one in that round to me has the same upside of PJ Washington. So it's for me, if he's playing only 25 minutes or something, it's going to be, I know it's not going to be great value, but I mean, it's just a nice chip to have because we even talked about this before. I think like they could technically throw him out there on the wing on the three. He could kind of play the three in some super big lineups. Maybe I don't know. They got to get him on the floor. He's a really good player.
So let me go back and look at the sort of not necessarily the big picture of your specific team, but just any Luka Doncic team. If you were going to
Yeah.
talk someone through a Luka build, it sounds like your main target is I want to make sure I stay strong in assists and rebounds,
Yes.
possibly without going like traditional guard, which by the way, you basically did until you got to D'Lo. Like that.
Right.
So how did that plan work out for you? Because you got Scottie Barnes, who's a forward who assists. You've got Josh Hart, who's a forward who assists. Desmond Bane, who's a wing that assists. It seems like you were largely able to pull off that side of it. Did you get the other stuff that you wanted in this draft?
So I don't know if there's enough blocks there, and even Jarrett Allen's not a big block guy, or Porzingis is okay. I think blocks would be tough here. I
Okay.
wouldn't say it's a punt, and I think that's important for listeners. Just because you're not strong in something doesn't mean you have to punt it either. I think you could have these 50-50 stats where you say, "Hey, I'm not
Hmm.
the best blocks team, but I'm going to beat all the guard teams still in blocks that are punted blocks totally." Right? And I may not beat the big man teams. I think that's a important takeaway is like just because you're not strong in something doesn't mean you just have to totally punt it. And I really wouldn't intentionally punt more than one or two categories. After that, it's really dicey if you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to punt 3 things and I'm going to win these other 6 every week." Well, you got to be pretty good in those other 6 to win against every team every week. So I would just, when I'm looking at this team, I say, "Hey, I think I can win field goal percentage. I can win points. I can win rebounds, and I can win assists. I can win 4 pretty much every week. And then if I can 50-50 steals and blocks, right? If I can 50-50 turnovers and free throw percentages, whatever, then or threes, then I'm okay with that. Like I'm not even fully punting anything. I don't think with this build.
Yeah, I was thinking that too as I looked at it. Like, I guess the start and free throws is not particularly strong, but it's not This probably brings up that question, and I know Josh was talking about it on social a little bit. Was that difference between like what's a soft punt versus a hard punt? Is there actually any difference? And the answer is I don't actually really know. I think the way I use those terms at least would be like what you're talking about here. Just because your team isn't great at free throws or blocks doesn't mean that you're actively seeking to lose them. There's sort of that
Right.
like, and that's a weird way to phrase it because no one's like, you're not like trying to lose a category, but if you toggle that category off, say on the Basketball Monster player page, you're basically now like you've eliminated whatever players might help you in a particular category. So you didn't do that. You didn't just eliminate the guys. You obviously didn't target someone who was specifically a shot blocker. But you're like, all right, like if these guys get some blocks along the way, I'm not going to argue with it. And that to me is probably the difference between like a soft versus a hard punt where
totally.
Yeah, and Kingy's been on this show a number of times, and he has what you'd have to classify as the hard punt because he's going like he is for punting Anthony Davis stuff, and he is actively seeking to lose 3 to 4 categories because he decided, look, I need to be so good in 5 that even if Anthony Davis goes down, my team can still withstand it. Do you have any thoughts on this sort of hard versus soft punt?
I do. I think first of all, Kingy is like a pro, and he can do that.
Lunatic.
He's a lunatic, and he's been doing it for a while, and he's really honed his strategy. If you want to go into drafts and draft that way, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I think it's hard to pull off, and you have to be really good at it, and it has a high bust factor. Like if you don't nail your guys, or if one of those guys gets hurt, or 2 guys get hurt, or something that are going to carry you in that category. I think my particular strategy would be if you're going to draft and soft punt something and then play out the first month and then reassess and say, now it's time to trade. And then it all depends on how much your league trades and how much you like to trade. But you get to see what your team looks like and then say, hey, I have an opportunity here to make a trade where I can solidify a category by punting another category, or I'm just not winning blocks every week. I might as well see if I can get anything for Porzingis or whoever my main block shot guys, right? And lock down another category. To me, the trading is where you can really, take advantage of in-season opportunities to, punt and lock down categories as the year goes on.
That's cool. I like the discussion. I think Josh actually does a wonderful job of bringing up sort of like these big, broad stroke things in the fantasy community that we all need to kind of figure out. What do the words mean? How do the strategies make sense? It's part of this. I just think that when we're all like discussing things and out there in the open together, it creates such a fun and interesting fantasy space, and
absolutely
we can all learn so much from these discussions as well. Thunder Dan, oh, go ahead, buddy. I was gonna get you out of here on time for once.
My final thoughts. I was gonna give my final thought on that because you bring up a good point. To me, this is why I love playing in like category leagues, whether it's roto or head to head, because there's just so much more nuance. The points league stuff, listen, I get my fix through DFS with that stuff and with props and whatnot. I can play FanDuel and just stack up all the points league guys in there. So I don't do points league stuff. I know people still do, and that's not a knock on it, but it is such a simpler format to me, and you don't have the nuance that you have with category leagues, which is why I think they're so much fun. There's so much more strategy that goes into it. So anyways, that's my little plug. And I'm coming around on, I'm a head-to-head guy for a long time, but the last couple of years I've been coming around on Roto, which I know is one of your jams.
I do love me some Roto. The game's cap, it changes so many things and eliminates everybody's least favorite part of fantasy basketball, which is the rest day. Not eliminates, but it does minimize. Thunder Dan, I didn't give you a chance to tell everybody what you got cooking over at Rotoballer.
That's fine. Check out, I just put out my top 150 this week. My good buddy Alex Burns, so I know it's coming on here soon, is cooking up a points league rankings and 9-cat rankings. A couple more pieces of content dripping out next week before the kickoff of the season. So and obviously other sports too, if you're into football, whatever. So cover that all year. But we're here to talk about basketball. So anyways, and then I'll have a weekly waiver wire piece on Rotoballer, and if the folks haven't heard, right, a weekly show starting here on the Old Man Squad, which is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about dropping players, stop holding on to players that aren't helping your team, cut the dead weight, and jump in and work the wire, man. That's the other thing I love about head to head is like you can stream guys. You can go week to week. This week, I'm playing a team that I can beat in blocks, so I'm going to stream some blocks, guys, and we're going to go get it.
Listen, if anybody knows anything about Thunder Dan, we all know that you're extraordinarily negative. All you want to do is cut. But I kid. You're trying on a new outfit for that show.
Yeah, I'm gonna put on my hat backwards, and I'm gonna just scowl a lot and maybe
you need like a
yell.
really dark goatee, like bad Thunder,
like
the
the
evil
villain.
The villain. you got to be like the bad guy in a Steven Seagal '90s movie. That's what I want.
That's so classic. I
love
it.
Weird reference. Hard to kill.
No.
Thunder Dan is hard to kill. All right, I told you I'd get you out of here in a half an hour. I'm actually going to do it today. He's Thunder Dan DFS on social media. He is another of the amazing Dans here in the fantasy space. Dude, my man, thank you so much.
My pleasure, guys. Take it easy.
The Thunderous One. He's got a busy day. A lot of these times I'm like, I'm going to get you out of here in a half hour. Then we talk for like 42 minutes and I have to apologize at the end. No apologies for me on this one. And he's right. I am actually talking to Alex Burns next. Basically, as soon as this show is edited and posted, then Burns is coming on. It's a Rotoballer day here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I have a couple of thoughts on the soft versus hard punt as well. I thought that was a really fun discussion to talk about in general. And my main thoughts are, I'm really bad at what most would consider the hard punt. What I think, well, if we're going to try to define it, I guess the best way I could come up with would be to say a hard punt, you could probably say is something like, well, you took Trae Young in the first round, and so I'm literally not going to touch anyone who's even remotely decent at turnovers or field goal percent. Now, turnovers, you're ultimately going to have to take somebody who's like at 1.5 because all the high turnover guys are going to run out. But there are plenty of guys in the NBA that shoot terribly from the field. The problem with that is you need to have so many backup plans ready because odds are, I mean, think about it from this perspective. If you're going that route, you're looking at power forwards and centers where none of their value is tied up in a decent field goal percent. And that wipes out a huge chunk of the board. That leaves you, oh man. What are we thinking about here? Let's try to find guys that are power forward, center eligible. Like Alex Sarr would be a great target for you in that particular build. And Wemby, obviously, if you started with him, would be great. And I'm thinking about other centers that don't shoot all that well. Bobby Portis at 46.5%, Miles Turner at 48, JJJ. But if you don't get those guys, you're going to be left scrambling, and you're going to end up taking a guy where you're like, this guy's got a better field goal percent than I intended. On the flip side of that, what I think I would classify as more of a soft punch, not that there's would be just not targeting a particular category and not actively avoiding it so much as say, okay, well, I have Trae Young and I have a team that's bad at turnovers and field goal percent to start, but ultimately I'm going to need to get a center on this team. So, all right, maybe I don't take like Jarrett Allen, who all of his values tied up in field goal percent, but if I'm going to take a center, like I don't mind taking Nikola Vucevic. It's going to be like a 50%er from the field. That's helpful, but like that's not really where most of his values tied up. And ultimately, when you really sort of dive down into it, there probably shouldn't be that definition gap between the two. If you're punting a category, it should mostly just be you're not overly concerned about it and you're not hyper focused on being bad at it. But there are particular team styles like the Kingy multi-punt where you really have no choice. You are going to be really terrible at a bunch of things because of how overloaded you are in 5 other categories. So that, to me, is where that definition gap is created. I'm not a punter at my core. I'm a 9-cat roto player in my heart. So if I'm going to punt something, it's probably going to be one thing, and it's probably going to be something I decide on midway through the season. That's the Dan Vespers way. I usually try to draft a pretty damn well-rounded team. I see what pops up. For me, the Vespers punt would be I'm not paying attention to my categorical strengths and weaknesses as I work my way through a draft. This would be for head-to-head only. And at the end of the draft, I just look and see, what did I do? In Roto, you don't really have a choice. You get to the 4th, 5th round and you're bad in 1 or 2 categories, you got to shore those up. You cannot be bottom in 2 categories in Roto. You could in a competitive Roto league, you could be really bad in 1. If you're good enough in the others, you can't be really bad in 2. So in Roto, by the 4th, 5th round, you got to start shoring up your weak categories. And head-to-head, just like close your eyes. Don't even look at the team you've built so far, other than what positions you might still need to fill up. Just take the guys that make a lot of sense. You think you're going to be amazing values. And if you stack a bunch of values at the end of a head-to-head league, you're probably going to be really good in 5 or more categories. And then by December, you can figure out, oh, I'm awful at rebounds. Okay, fine. Punt them. Take your one guy who's good at rebounding and exchange him for a different type of guy who's better at other stuff and not as good in that one. For years, I've called that the give up on these shows, but it's just a punt. It's a mid-season punt that emerges from not punting or hard punting or soft punting or whatever on draft night. Because in my opinion, unless you're very, very good at punt builds, and some of our analysts on this show really, really are, and some of you guys watching also are very good at punting, I think it's easier. You guys know my move here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, presented by FanDuel and Fantrax. Check out our buddies at fantrax.com/oldmansquad to sign up today. Our tack here on the show is I want to try to simplify playing 9-cat fantasy basketball for you guys. And in my opinion, the simplest way to work through a head-to-head draft is to just take the best value on the board in every round. If you can win the round, you can build a winning team by December. I promise you that. If you come out of your draft and your first 8 picks are all equal to their ADP or better, we can take that team and we can turn it into a title contender very easily. Thanks to Thunder Dan for popping on the show. He's Thunder Dan DFS over at Rotoballer on social media. I'm at Dan Besbris. Please subscribe to Old Man Squad on your way out of the building. Also, yes, I did set up a $1 Patreon. I know I've told you guys about it already. It is my effort to generate enough funds through basically micro donations. That's what you're doing. You're micro donating. And if enough of you do it, then I'll do this for free for the rest of my life. Simple as that. It's a really easy goal, and I'm going to give it plenty of time to get there. It's not like we need to get to a good number in the next 2 weeks. Over the next half decade, that's it. That's what I'm telling you guys right here. So if you got a buck, roll on over, patreon.com/oldmansquad. All the good links you need are in the show description, including my Google Sheet, which contains everything, including my ranks completely free. It's the Dan Besbris Buckets board. I went through and I did some fine-tuning last night. I think it's getting very close to being done. It's got all the Yahoo pre-ranks, the ADP trackers. I'll have an injury board. I will also have a streaming calendar done. Heaven help me, I can get this done in the next 11 days. And we'll love you guys to check that out. I'm Dan Besbris on Twitter, DanBesbris. See you guys over there.